afternoon. This is Randy Miller. We are in Austin. I'm in Austin, Texas, and I'm interviewing Randy Nelson today. Randy, thank you for joining me today.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, looking
Quite all
forward
right.
to coming to Texas.
So Randy's going to be a presenter at my two groups in November, and also Ed Stillman's one of the other chairs in Austin in November. I'm looking forward to hearing your presentation. You are an experienced Vistage member and speaker, so you've had the opportunity to be kind of on both sides. So if you would, tell the viewers here who you are and where you're from.
So originally from Buffalo, I remain a Bills fan. Cowboys beat us in a few Super Bowls. We're still trying, but I live in Raleigh, North Carolina now. And a little bit about me: I was a Navy submarine officer in the 1980s. I got out as a lieutenant and started my first business in 1990. I've been an entrepreneur for 30 plus years, and for the last 10 years, I transitioned into. I never thought I'd be, but I transitioned to being an author. So I've authored 3 books, and now I'm a business coach and advisor for other leaders and entrepreneurs who are building their businesses.
Well, again, thank you for your service. I really honor that. Well, tell us a little bit about your session. What can members expect to take away from hearing your presentation?
Yes, you mentioned I was a member. So I was a member of Vistage for 20 years. Loved every second of it in Raleigh, North Carolina, and so I had a chance to hear a lot of speakers. And if I sort of did a summary of the speakers, it was obviously all about helping us build our businesses, helping her build our leadership. A few of them really talked directly to us and challenged us as leaders. But in my book, the first book that I wrote is called The Second Decision: The Qualified Entrepreneur. And when I was in the Navy, before they let me drive a submarine, lead the engineering department, do anything on the submarine, I had to go through a qualification process. So when I got on board, they would hand me a what they called a qual card. And it was a list of knowledge requirements, 10, 15 pages. And when I thought I knew the main steam system, I would go ask the person who was the expert. They would check me out. And if they said, hey, you know what you're talking about, they signed my qual card. And I had to go through that until I got everything signed. And then I had to go through oral examinations. At the end, then I got my Gold Dolphins. Pilots have wings. I get Gold Dolphins on the submarine. And, as entrepreneurs and as leaders, we don't go through that same process, especially entrepreneurs. We start a company, we're CEO day one, we're qualified in our minds day one. So I always ask the question, what if we had to be qualified? So the second decision for me is, if you actually had to be qualified to lead your business, number one, would you want to go through the process? But beyond that, the main question that I like to ask, I like to ask leaders is 3 years from today, what role do you want to be in? Do you really want to be the leader, or do you want to be in a different role? Because I've built now 3 different businesses, and I turned both of them over because I wasn't the right person in the seat anymore. So I'm going to do some challenging of your group and the leaders in it to see whether they really feel they're the right person, and maybe if they feel they're qualified.
And what will they walk away from then, your presentation?
This is going to be a lot of self-reflection from them. So I'm going to ask them a lot of questions. Again, when I think about Vistage speakers, we take a lot of notes, and we think about building our business. I want them taking notes on themselves. I really want them asking themselves some very challenging questions, some self-awareness, some things that are going to be very, very practical to them back to their business. I want them at the end of the day to be tired thinking about the questions about themselves.
Yeah, that's one of the things I often talk to potential members about is, each of them in their business is probably, hopefully, an expert in their industry, whatever that happens to be. But that's not what wears us out and is required of us to build a business. We need to do work in areas we're not familiar with. The hiring, the firing, the accounting, the marketing. Very few of us have experience in all those support areas that we need. And that's one of the things the Vistage Group can help them with, one way or another, through speakers and accountability of the group members to each other and so forth to figure out, as you say, to get those skills or either hire it or themselves, but somebody's got to do it in their company. So I love the idea of getting qualified and figuring out kind of what their strengths is. It kind of reminds me of Lencioni's book, The Six Working Geniuses, and figuring out which of the two are you and figuring out which of the two you shouldn't be doing for sure, you know? So
Absolutely.
what are your strengths?
And I like to challenge them not necessarily where they are today, because I think one of the beauties of the military did is they made us get qualified, but then they immediately had us another qual card for the next role. So everybody in your groups are in the position. They know that position. I'm sure they're all doing very, very well there. Whether they're the right person, I'll challenge a little bit. I'm going to ask them to think about 3 years from today. I'm going to ask them to think about where they're growing their organization. And I'm going to ask about what that looks like 3 years from today. And then what do they need to get qualified for that? So I want them a little bit out of their comfort zone, thinking, number one, where am I taking the company? And where does that put me? Because I'm a firm believer that as a leader, it starts with us. We're the ones who have to be qualified first before we're asking others to be qualified too.
Well, it's very hard to lead and manage someone when you have no real understanding of what their job entails, right? And how do you measure it? How do you even assign KPIs of something you have no real understanding? So, um, can you, are there some examples of people, business owners, CEOs that you worked with and the results that they achieved?
I could tell you a couple quotes, and because I'm going to challenge them not only in their business, but I'm going to challenge them in their personal life, because we get one shot at this thing. And I like people when they look at where they're at right now to think, and I'll throw this number out, 68. So 68 is a number I'll use in my presentation, and 68. The average male in our country lives to be 78. The average female lives to be 81. 68 is the average number of healthy years we live. The last 10 to 13 are lived with a disability. So what I want to do is I want to get people thinking either on the personal side or the business side, something that's really gonna be an aha for them. Because I know when I turned 55, I'll turn 63 here, actually this week. When I turned 55, I got the white tees in golf. And I was excited because I could cut a little distance off, right? But then I learned this 68 thing, and I said, geez, I thought I had till 78. 68's a little bit different. So I want people, and I think in this area, not just the business side, I've had a lot of people when I challenge them on what I call non-negotiables. What's non-negotiable for you in your personal life as you're building your business? I have a lot of people who maybe haven't thought a lot about that. They thought about what building their business and how much I'm going to add to the company and what we're going to do. But when you start getting back to yourself and you start putting a little perspective on it, I think that's something they haven't necessarily put a lot of thought into.
So how would you measure or account for transformation of your the members that you present to? Is there a transformational expectation that you might have for them?
The final question that I will ask them is I'm going to start. I'm going to ask them a question at the beginning of the presentation of where they want to be, and I'm going to ask them a question at the end of the presentation where they want to be. And my hope is, and in speaking to Vistage members over the years, I don't want that question. I don't want that answer to be exactly the same. I've not done a good job in your group if at the end they say, no changes. I've not challenged them. I've not got them outside their comfort zone. I've not got them thinking. So I really want to see some personal thoughts, some personal transformation during the session that they're saying, these are the things I really want to take away out of this thing and change.
Well, that's very inspirational. I think your members will garner a lot of benefit from hearing your presentation and having that reflective time to measure their own kind of future and what their own expectation needs to be for what they're going to do and how they're going to do it in the future. And the neat thing is too is I don't know if you've heard, but one of the things at Vistage is just created is a way to measure the enterprise value of a company. And add this to me, you're going to add a lot of that enterprise value because of their overall ability to perform at a higher level.
Mhm. And enjoy it. I think this is a lot. This is not just about the numbers game. I'll share what I've seen because I've gone through each of the steps of building and selling, and then hey, we hit the top, right? Nope, you're going to go right back and you're going to do it again. So I've seen way too many people who are really successful financially struggle, struggle after they're maybe not at the top of the mountain again. So I think there's an awful lot. I don't like just looking at 3 years and saying, okay, what's the next 3 years? I like people looking at this as this is a lifetime. This is a career choice. Being an entrepreneur and being a leader is a bit of being an addict. So we don't just stop and say, hey, I don't want to build anymore. I don't want to grow anymore. So we have to learn what that is, what that's like, and how do we deal with that over our lifetime. So I'm 63 years old. I know Vista's chairs are very young, energetic, and you're gonna be out there till you're 90 years old. I know if Texas chairs are anything like North Carolina chairs, uh, and so are the leaders. They're going to be doing stuff. So if you're doing stuff, you should be doing things where your strength is, where you enjoy it. Uh, Lots of things to think about. That's what I want to do. I want to challenge to think about a lot of different things.
I really appreciate that. Is there anything else you'd like to share with our listeners before we stop the recording?
Let's see. No, I want them coming in with a blank slate because the first question I hit them with, I hope they come. I know Vistage groups. Everybody's got lots of different things that come up at the last minute, but I look forward to whoever shows up, and we're gonna have a good conversation back and forth too. So I just look forward to those who are there, and I'll keep them engaged. What I have always got the feedback that I ask a lot during the presentations, and I ask them to think a lot, and they say, "Geez, it was we're kind of tired." I always ask the feedback. What should I take up? They said nothing. We're just tired. So
Well, make them.
I hope it's a good tired.
Well, I give you my full blessing to make them work because that's
Good,
the speakers and presentations they actually get something the most from, right? The ones they have to dig deep to.
excellent.
So,
Well, I'm really looking forward to it. I appreciate the invite and the opportunity to come down.
well, thank you so much for your time and look forward to seeing you in November.
All right, that sounds great. Thank you.